Hello, welcome to Facts. Today we are making a Manica, which is the Gladiator sleeve thingy. Yes, let's move right into it. Okay, so if you'll remember from my previous Gladiator piece that I just did was the Gladiator helmet. I did a little lion emblem on there. I thought what I'd like to do is carry on that theme, and what I have here is a fiberglass lion head that was part of a fountain that is no longer functioning, and I cut it away, and it looks like that's about the right size and shape. I like that very classic lion stylized head, and I think that's going to work quite well. But we're not going to make it out of fiberglass, obviously. So what I'm going to do is use this as my maquette and then do a bronze sculpt of that piece. Then the main will be more of a stylized thing that will provide the little flare up here, and I'll probably cut it off here so that we just have the upper. We've got to be able to move my arm. So that's my thought process as of now. This saved me a little time. I didn't actually have to do any prior sculpt. I can just use this. So we're going to dive right into the bronze. We'll grab a piece. I've got a piece. Here's a piece. And I will raise out a shapeless bulge out there. So I'm going to go over to the stump right now and just dish out a little bit, and then I'm going to come over to the forge and we'll raise it. Okay, so just cold dished that out. Now let's raise that. Okay, so it was about an hour for me to raise my initial bulge, and then about another hour, maybe a little bit more, to sculpt out the main topographical points of the face here. So I basically got it nailed down to what I want. You can see that I've shrunk it down slightly so that it fits onto my shoulder a little bit more bettery. So it's going to be sitting on there. That is about the right size that I want here. I'm going to have the stylized mane curling up, providing this plate, which the name escapes me right now. But anyway, you can see where I'm going with that. A lot of refining yet to do on the face. I have done this in my usual fashion where this actually can sit flat so I can clamp it to my table. So I think what I'm going to do next is fill it up with some pitch and start knocking in some of the finer details there. There is still some highs and lows that I need to play with, but I think I want to start defining a few of those areas like the eyes and stuff, just sharpening it up, and then I can kind of drop in the rest of the features to their appropriate place, but we're more or less headed in the right direction. So why don't we go have some lunch now and then come back in a few hours and see what I've done. Day two, you can tell because I have a different t-shirt on. I'm gonna guess 6 or 7 hours into this, and it's starting to take shape now. I have deviated from my original because I am, of course, a deviant. Everybody who knows me knows that. I felt that this lion here was a little benign. It actually looks kind of like a lab. Just a little bit too friendly. So I had to make it a little bit more snarly. Gave it the frowny brows there and kind of enhance some of the whole snarl effect there. So I like the way it's coming out here. Right now, I'm going to abandon my face detailing. We're going to start sketching out what's going to happen as far as the mane, which is the piece that comes up, the plate that helps protect the neck off the shoulder there. So let me grab some soapstone and we'll start drawing a picture. So I draw my little sunburst here for the stylized, highly stylized mane. It looks kind of cheesy as a chalked out diagram, but I'm hoping it will actually look a little bit more badass when it actually comes to life here. So what I'm going to do is put it onto a piece of plywood, clamp it down there, and then I can start roughing in my lines. That's just a nice backer that I can get those all in place, and we'll go from there. So I've now roughed in my lines there. I got an idea of what's going to happen. I think what I need to do now is make an actual cardboard template so I can get some sort of symmetry on here, and then I can decide whether I'm ready to cut this out. By the way, these fangs, which I've got pointing straight down here, I'm shaping them. When I start doing my cutaway, I hope to pop them forward to give a cool little effect there. So I really have to kind of think through my whole process for what that shape needs to be. So I think I need to move on to some templating, and then we will catch up a little bit later as I'm trimming this out and starting to roll the outside edge. Then we can do the final shaping. I'm concerned I'm going to get sued by Disney. It's got rather a Lion King-esque look to it when I did the sunburst here. But one of the advantages of having a very obscure channel is probably not even on their radar. Let's hope. So at this point, what I want to do now is start thinking about how this thing is actually going to function in place. It'll be on my right shoulder here. And this right angle bend, it kind of describes what is going on where it drops off. So I want it sitting like that. The problem with that is that the mane is coming towards my head. Then we've got this helmet that's going on, which is going to be an interference problem for sure. So I've got that. I need to sweep this back out of the way. So I'm going to curl the mane outwards, have the whole thing sitting so that hopefully it is sitting more or less upright when that's done. That's kind of my shaping challenge. Then we'll have to try it in relation with the helmet. I still think there's going to be interference. There's really no getting around that sort of thing. I might have to pad this out on my shoulder a little farther just to give as much clearance as possible. But for now, let's start with trimming this off. I've got my fangs down here, which I'm going to pop them slightly forward, and then they will start where the first lamination of the actual sleeve portion is going to be. So let's just cut this off there. So that's roughly where the fangs are going to go. I've got to do some refining on that, obviously, to get it all in place. But now I want to concentrate on getting the mane curling out on itself. Here we go. Not perfect. There's going to be a restriction in movement there, obviously. I don't think there's any getting around that. We've just got these pieces coming together. I'm not sure what it actually looked like on my shoulder there, but if it's something like that, it seemed to be able to move around there with that shape with enough clearance there, but there's obviously going to be some banging and clanging, binding issues and stuff like that. So not 100% mobility, but maybe enough to survive. So what I need to do now, I've got that shape basically, I think what we need there. I want to see if I can try to get a little bit more rounding on that, and then I have to refine the entire thing. So probably an hour or two of light tapping to make that all come together properly. But I think it's kind of a cool shape. In looking at my research papers on the Manica here, I came up with this one photograph here, and they're using leather, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So I thought, I've got this problematic piece of leather that I've been trying to find a use for quite some time. This stuff is a little bit thinner than my typical strapping leather or leather that I would use in an armoring situation, but it's incredibly tough because it is, my leather guy told me it's for making like leather laces. I tried to make a sheath for my knife out of it, and it was really tough to work with, not really conducive to that, kind of a pain. But I thought it might be suitable for something like this. It'll be light, small, or not thick so that the laminations move on each other quite nicely, and maybe it will be tough enough to stand up to this. Admittedly, this thing is never going to see aqua combat anyway, so let's try it. Let's use this piece of leather. So, I'm looking at this guy, and I'm seeing this looks very baggy, and I think I could do something a little bit, I don't know, cooler design. Also, I'm noticing this guy has zero body hair whatsoever. He's like a Ken doll. And also a little bit pudgy, which gives me some hope. I was trying to get lean for this whole thing and do a photo shoot at the end there, but maybe I don't have to get down to like 10% body fat. Maybe I could stay at my, I don't know what I'm at now, like 18, something like that. Anyway, I digress. Moving on. Templating. Let me just show you quickly how I go about roughing out template. So I've got my piece here. I've got to come down my sleeve here. I'm just going to take a piece of cardboard. Looks like I need pretty much the full length to get from there to there. That goes on there. Point the frames in there and just see. That gives me kind of something, a rough idea of where to start. And then I think what I'll do is just kind of do a little point off the hand there. Just ignore me, I'm talking to myself at this point. And kind of come up. That actually is there, so I'll probably be cutting off. It comes up to about there. So now I'm in the ballpark. Okay, so now I need to do a little bit of refining on this, get some symmetry, get some lines on there, so let's just, give me a second. I've done a bit of drawing, and this is what I've come up with. Looking at this here, I thought, I always like my little circular cutouts there, so that shape seemed to emulate that. So I just kind of extrapolated down there, and then sweeping up like that, came up with 9, 10 laminations. I think what I'm going to do for the top one here is make this one out of bronze just because I think the fangs are going to be problematic with the leather, that it's going to catch on there and not move very nicely. So I think an actual piece of metal on that one, it'll scratch, but at least it will move a little bit nicer. From there, then we'll go down our leather, and then I think my final one down onto the hand there, I might do that with bronze as well, just to have it stay in shape. And also it bookends the whole thing nicely from bronze to bronze with leather in between. At least that's my plan at this point. I don't really have a cutout leather die for that. So what I have done, I just found this piece of pipe. This is mild steel, by the way, and used that, and I thought it was about the right size for what I'm trying to do. So what I've done is sharpen that up. And I'm probably going to have to resharpen it a number of times here because this has no heat treatment whatsoever and really no edge holding ability. But I'm hoping that I can get my 9 pieces of leather sheared out with a nice, sharp, clean, distinct circle. So now that I've got these laid out here, I was able to do a tracing on there and come up with what the actual lamination looks like. So our top one being this wide here, and then as it goes down, it gets smaller. My second one here being about there. So they all kind of fall within that range. There's a slight change over them as they move down there. So I'm gonna have to make slight incremental changes for a few off of this one and then a few off of this one to get our flow there. So let me start cutting some leather. Ha! All right, so 9 holes later, and my sacrificial tool is actually standing up incredibly well. I went about halfway, I did 5 holes, and then I resharpened, and it popped out a pretty clean hole there. So now I got to finish trimming out. This is, as I said, sacrificial. I'll just get rid of it. Interesting, the way it ties into the Roman era where they had iron and very little carbon content in it, and heat treating was not really a thing back then. So this might be more realistic as to what tool life and use might have looked like back in that era, but that's something to discuss in a different video. So let me continue trimming out the rest of the pieces here. All right, so I've got my pieces roughly trimmed out here and got them laid out. You can see how that's going to happen. And while I was waiting for my cameraman to show up this morning, I went ahead and I did the bronze top lamination there, which I'm in the process of forming out. So that will go in there. So this will be trimmed out. I'm just shaping this at this point now. So that will be able to move in there with some freedom. And then we will transition into this and on down, and I still have to do the plate for the hand there. So thinking back to when I did the hoplite armor, I think when I did the leather, I used my stitch groover and put like a groove in like that. And I might actually do a little bit of tooling here. I could do some decorative work in there, kind of screaming out for that sort of thing. I don't know how much time I want to invest in this, being experimental. I'm not sure how well this leather is actually going to work. Once I soak it and set it, is it going to stay in position? Kind of a mystery leather, so I don't know. And only one way to really find out. So why don't we just say our goodbyes for right now. I'm going to spend a couple hours and start playing around with leather, see what I come up with. When I get it figured out, we'll get you back again, and then I will show you my process, and then we'll move on to assembly. At long last, we are at the finishing stage. This one took a lot longer than I anticipated. Often things like this do. There's a lot of components, and that just translates to a lot of hours. I am guesstimating we're at about the 35-hour mark at this point, making this, by the time we get this assembled, maybe a 40-hour project, so a full week to do this, which is quite a bit for what it is, but like I said, there's just a lot of components, a lot of weird little details. Even though this is not a highly refined piece, just taking a little while. So let's dive right into it. What we need to do first is, I've got my bronze polished, and now I need to put my patina on that, so let's begin with that. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you have watched previous THAC videos and have seen me do this many times, but what I just did was the patina, and I'm using my standard Sculpt Nouveau brown for bronze and brass and copper. So put the patina on, let it sit for a moment or two, rinse it with water to neutralize it, and then wipe it off, and then I use this Scotch-Brite product steel wool just to buff out the highlights. This is how I usually start my bronze pieces. Then I find I let that age for a couple days before I wax it and seal it in, because it oxidizes. I don't actually like the color when I'm freshly finished like this. I like it to oxidize a bit. It pulls out a little bit more of the copper hue, and at that point then I will wax it, but listen to me ramble on. So that is the bronze components of this. Now let's get into our leather. I've got all my pieces of leather here, which over the past week, I soaked them in water and then just basically pulled them into a round shape like this, and actually set them in little tubes to keep them in this shape so they dried into a semi-hard and tighter than what I need curvature. Now what I'm going to do is stain them, then when they go together and layer up, they should have a nice tight curvature on them. Let's see how that works, shall we? So I have now stained the leather, and it's looking quite fetching if I do say so. Now we begin the exciting assembly process. By the way, this is the harness. Didn't really talk about this whole thing. You'll see in a few moments when we actually put it together. Let's get into the actual assembly. So I will start at the bottom. I've got the hand piece here, and I've got my little finger loop. So we'll start by riveting that on, and then we'll just continue up with, well, I'll show you when I get there in just a moment. All right, so I'm starting at the bottom of the leather here. I'm gonna add on the handpiece after I wanna fit that specifically. What I'm using is a truss head rivet, which is a very flat-headed rivet, which has got a tiny dome on it. And it is 3/16 shaft, 3/8 of an inch long. And I put my strap in place, the two pieces together, and then a washer over that. And then what I do is just peen over the rivet. I'm not tightening it down, I'm just creating another truss head or head on the other end here, trying to leave some slop there so that this whole thing can move. And you'll see as we come together, this thing will have a lot of articulation. Because of that, it won't bind on itself. But it takes a bit of a technique to be able to do that, especially with two pieces of leather. When it's two pieces of metal, it holds in place a little bit better. This tends to move around on me. It takes a little bit of care. So there's one, and now I will have to find my next piece and move up the chain. And there it is. Okay, so it worked out pretty good there. I don't even have this fully tightened on. I'm just kind of getting the hang of it, if you will. These straps might have to be modified somewhat, trying to get the movement here. It moves pretty good, actually. I like the way it bends. It's not uncomfortable in any way. I might have to try tightening up and see how that goes. But I just wanted to end this particular video. You'll notice that I fast forwarded a little bit, and I've got a shield here. This is something I grabbed out of the Thack Armory. It's been around for 18 years or something like that. Same with the belt here. I had this face that I made. First time I ever worked with silicon bronze, and that could be going back 20 years. So I made that into the outfit. And then I just grabbed some stuff from my Greek, the Hoplite series here. I'm missing the correct pins. I've got deck screws in there. But anyway, I just wanted to give you in context how the Manica works. I'm a little concerned at how the plate up here was interfering with the helmet. I seem to have pretty good mobility though. We're going to do a follow-up video now with when I have everything on here. I think I need to do a photo shoot with a friend of mine who's a photographer, and I think we might do a behind the scenes of that. And in that video, I will talk about all the components, what their historical context is, how mine measures up to that, where I did variations and what is similar, that sort of thing. So please stay tuned. That will be the nerd video that if you want to get the whole context of what we're doing here. But Manica worked out. I like my little lion head. I think it might be a little bit cute for me, but I think it works within the context here. And I'm quite happy with the functionality of this. I think I just need to play with it a little bit more. So that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one when we bring it all together and we talk about the entire outfit top to bottom. So until next time, see ya!